Hi everyone and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm your host Yvonne Heath, author of the book Love Your Life to Death and founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So joining me today is Michael Walton. Hello Michael.
Hi.
I am so excited. I'm looking at your career and it's been quite an eclectic career actually, but we're going to talk about your career as an author, which is very exciting.
Yes.
It is very exciting, yes. So just looking back, you started out as an English major. Then you were a police officer for 18 years?
20 now.
20 years. And was it 14 of those years that you did search warrant writing?
I pretty much still do that to this day.
Yes. So search warrant writer. I've never heard of someone being a search warrant writer, but I guess somebody has to write them. But a few years ago, your life changed and your career changed, and that's what we're going to chat about. And so, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So tell us. So first of all, where were you a police officer?
So I've been a police officer in a couple different places, actually multiple locations, but two different police services. One was down in the city of Mississauga, so I worked within the GTA and a police force down there, and then I switched over to a provincial police after that.
Yes, and what did you, like, were you on the street? Is that what they go? On the street, working the beat? I don't know, whatever. What was your specific role?
So, yeah. All police officers start on the street in some capacity. So when I worked in the city of Mississauga, it was quite an interesting time at that time. Crack was really hitting the scene. And
crack cocaine, is that, yes, okay.
Sorry, yes, crack cocaine was really just coming prevalent. So I worked in some pretty sketchy neighborhoods where it infested. And worked with some great people that helped clean it up. From there, I ended up switching and becoming a provincial officer, as I mentioned, and that took me on a whole nother journey where I chased gang members, mafia members. I've worked on a whole bunch of different units. I've been very fortunate to have had all those experiences.
Wow. When I think of doing things like that in post-traumatic stress and all of the things that so many police officers, I mean, your life is in danger in so many of those situations. How did you sort of navigate through mentally, physically, emotionally to stay at an even keel?
That's an interesting question.
I like to dig in a little.
So in the one particular gang that we were chasing, they had just committed a homicide that we know of. There was others that they might have been involved in as well, and they were very they weren't shy, they were extremely in your face, and they right up to my face told me they were going to kill me. They told me they knew where I lived. They told me that it must be scary living out there all by myself. And so when all that started really playing out and we started really digging into them and it became a lot more heated between me and them, I was getting regular calls. They're looking for you right now.
Oh my goodness.
So I took some personal steps within my life to protect myself at that moment. I also chose not to tell those close to me what was going on because I didn't want them to be concerned. It's kind of a weird balance because as a police officer, you are the last line of defense for everybody. And if these bad guys can influence you to stop, then they won. And then where's the line of defense? So you have to kind of ride that edge where you're basically on the firing line and just hoping that you don't get shot.
Right. But I mean, here you are navigating this and you don't want to tell the people closest to you do you talk about it with fellow police officers. I mean, that's a incredibly intimidating, scary, frightening. I mean, your life is literally on the line.
In that particular investigation, so I was a search warrant writer for that, and my supervisor at the time decided that I wasn't allowed to be present when those search warrants were being executed because just my being there escalated the whole situation.
Wow.
So not that it helped out a lot, but it helped out a little bit, in particular at those locations.
Right.
But I had a good friend, like we had a very close, small team that we worked closely together. We all kind of knew about the risk, but we didn't really talk about it.
No.
We just accepted it and knew what we were doing was the right thing.
Right.
And we were looking for a successful conclusion, which we ended up getting.
Oh, that's good. Oh my goodness. It sounds like a movie or a TV series. Like honestly, that's just so incredibly frightening. But do you love being a police officer and working on the street? It's just your passion?
I'm still a police officer,
Yep.
and yes, I do love my job.
Yeah.
I'm passionate for it because of where I grew up and how I grew up, and I'm passionate for a whole bunch of reasons. I guess a strong believer of right and wrong, and wanting to do the right thing. So it's a weird occupation.
Yeah.
And it's going to sound really weird, but you fall in love with it.
Yep.
And the more you invest in it, the more you want to invest in it. It's almost intoxicating.
No, I get that. I think it's like any caregiving or first responder career. I mean, it's like a whole different world. I worked in Emerge for many years. My husband's a paramedic, and so I understand that. And if you still have that love for it, or you're still invested, that it's important, right? But your career path changed a few years ago, didn't it? And yeah, talk about that.
So it was a beautiful sunny day. It was July 30th, 2011. I was training for a triathlon. I was on my triathlon bike, and I got hit by a car.
Oh.
It was like, it's crazy to feel as healthy and full of energy 1 second, and then the next second be in the most pain that you can even imagine.
Wow.
And then to try to recover from that, like I've never felt so vulnerable in my life. And I guess my identity in my own head is I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm healthy, and then all of a sudden it's taken from me.
You were chasing bad guys, mafia. I mean, you were doing all of these, incredible things, and your life was on the line, not expecting to be on your bike training, which is a wonderful thing. You're exercising and doing something good for yourself, and you get hit by a car. I mean, you're lucky to be alive, I feel. I mean, getting hit by a car on a bicycle is often there's often a terrible ending.
So I was told that I'm lucky to be alive. I should have died. There is a lot of hurdles to try to come back from that. It took me approximately 5 years to really get my life back to about 80% of what it was before.
What were your injuries?
The head injury was the most devastating. I separated my shoulder, cracked my sternum, my collarbone popped out, cracked my ribs, my spine. I had 6 herniated discs.
Oh, God.
A whole bunch of stuff, but the head injury was definitely like something I was not prepared for. Like all the other injuries, I've broken bones before. I've done a lot of damage to my body, but managed to come back. But that head injury was something I wasn't prepared for.
Did you lose your memory? What was the effect of the head injury?
I was knocked out immediately, and then I suffered amnesia. I lost, or didn't lose, I had problems with my short-term and long-term memory for a period of time. My vision was completely skewed.
Oh, it's so scary.
I saw the world literally on its side, and I walked funny because of it, because I was trying to make sense out of where I was walking, and so I would walk on an angle.
Oh my goodness.
Driving or walking, like everything would be shifting constantly, like, and I have to touch my body and make sure that I was okay. Like, I thought I was going crazy.
Oh, wow. So it only affects you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, right? And your identity, and I mean, obviously you couldn't work in the capacity that you're working as a police officer.
No. And headaches, like the crippling headaches from morning till night, and with no relenting. Like, it was pretty serious.
That's awful. I mean, it's awful.
But you know what, out of all that, so in going to all the specialists and going to all the doctors and trying to find a solution to make it better, a couple of the specialists and doctors said, I don't think you're ever going to be a cop again. And the first doctor that said it, actually, it hit me the hardest. Because I hadn't even thought about that, because I've managed to always come back. I've always managed to overcome whatever odds.
So to hear those words of the career you knew, you probably, well, was it denied? Like, did you think, no, of course I'll go back. Yes, I will, or?
It was almost, it was something that I was struggling with myself. And when the specialist said it, it was confirmation. And it was like, it was, took the wind out of my sails, definitely.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And he's like, I don't know, what have you given any thought to any other careers? And I'm like, I haven't.
No? This is what you knew, right?
Yeah.
So to say, now what? That's a big shift.
Yeah, it was shifting a whole bunch of things, as well as I knew my current state at that time, I was unemployable. So my fear was, like, I grew up poverty line to a degree. I don't know what you consider poverty, but we had no food in the cupboards and, you know, stuff like that. And
Consider that, yes, yeah, struggling, yes.
so that was the biggest fear for me, is having a family. I didn't want, that was the last thing I ever wanted my family to ever have to go through.
Well, you have a wife and you
Yeah.
had children,
Yes.
yes, and so that's, yes, so you have two boys,
yeah.
yes. Which, and of course, how that's very traumatic for the whole family. That must have been, yeah, it's a lot to go through as a family.
Yeah, so that's what bothered me the most was, I mean, I can endure that, but to put everybody through that, because
Right.
I can't get better, so it's kind of like a head trip, like a,
Oh, I can't imagine. Grief in so many levels, right? So many levels. So you turned a corner and you said it took, and so what was the next phase?
Yeah, so at the time, before the accident, I'd started writing a book, and it was just for me. It was almost like therapy. To talk about, like, some of the police investigations. Some of them can be very frustrating, and I work out. And no matter how much I worked out, it wasn't taking away some of the stress in this one particular investigation, which launched me into starting to write. And it was so liberating. Like, it just felt so good. Like, nobody could tell me no.
Right.
Nobody could say I couldn't do that. Nobody, my characters could do and say whatever they wanted to whoever, and
It's a great healthy outlet, actually. Working out and writing, I think that's phenomenal, right? I think that's a great outlet.
Oh, thank you. It actually worked really well for me. And in 8 months, I had 5 chapters done.
Wow.
And then I got hit by the car, and going through the whole medical process, I was still writing, but not devoted to it. And then after that doctor said that, that was the only thing that popped in my head that said, well, you're going to be an author.
Wow. A surprising career. Who knew, right? And so those 5 chapters turned into
16. So I finished my first draft by the end of the year, and then began my journey into publishing it.
That is so extraordinary. Is this what I have here in my hand? This
so-
right here.
Yeah.
So, APOC.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
APOC, right? So, APOC Michael Walton, those 5 chapters turned into this amazing book with a kind of a scary picture. Yes,
Yeah.
it is, man with a gun. So tell us a little bit about this. I mean, this is I know what this is like. Was this like your 3rd child? I was so excited when I wrote my book. Right? It's
Yes.
like to write it. It's like I actually wrote this book. I mean, this is an extraordinary accomplishment. It
Thank
really
you.
is. Yes. And so tell us a little bit about the book. What does APOC mean? What is that? Does it stand for something, or what's APOC?
APOC is the main character's kind of street name.
Okay.
And there's several meanings in the book itself relating to the main character, and then I also kind of relate to some of those meanings. And most of them are revealed at the back of the book.
Okay, so we can't let anybody know, obviously.
But it's tattooed on his arm, and
Right.
it's the main character.
Well, I kind of feel like I have a little street cred now because I have my dog tag that says APOC and my mug, and I feel really cool having this stuff. I'm not gonna lie, it's a cool hip nickname, and so finishing this book and publishing it
Yeah.
must have been. It's a wonderful feeling, isn't it?
It was surreal. Like working with all the editors, and there was some heavy edits.
Oh, it's more work than anyone could ever imagine, right? I know this, and that's after everything you went through to put this together, and so when did the book come out?
APOC originally came out April 29th, 2013.
Okay, so in 2013, and you've shared it
Yeah.
here, there, and everywhere, and
So I went on a book tour. I did like everything. I went to Texas,
oh wow,
and it was well received. It won honorable mention in one contest. One other judge said that he said some really nice things to me as well.
Amazing.
And I was just really happy. When I wrote that, or when the first draft, it was only designed for me. It was
Right.
an outlet. I did share with my mom and with a cousin, and they both said, "You have to publish this."
right. And so as far as the audience, so who should read this book, or who would be, who would relate to this, or who would enjoy? People who like
Crime, suspense,
Yeah.
thrillers.
Okay.
It's
So Jordy,
18A.
my husband, will be all over this. Yes. Okay. So crime, suspense, thriller.
Yeah.
And I'm sure police officers and
I've had a great response,
Yes.
and that was my biggest concern was how was it going to be received by
yes,
my
by your-
peers,
yes, absolutely.
and they've really enjoyed it. So
That's fantastic. That is so amazing. But you didn't stop there because, and like, I'm in awe of this part because, I mean, I wrote my one book and people say, when are you going to write another book? I say, I don't know. It's because it's all consuming. It is
Yes.
all consuming. But you have a vision of this being
bigger
a trilogy
trilogy and we'll see.
beyond.
Yeah.
And so you already have your second book
Yes.
right here. And first of all, oh my gosh, so this is APOC Derailed.
Yes.
This picture is absolutely extraordinary. I love this picture. This is you right
Yes.
here? You really do work out a little bit, don't you? Oh my goodness. So this is the sequel.
Yes, it is.
I love it. And when did
So-
this one come out?
So that one came out October 10th of this year.
So 2019.
Yeah.
Hot off the press.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's, been getting some good reviews.
Let's put these side by side. Yes, okay. Here we go.
But after the first one, and like I said, when my peers started really telling me how much they enjoyed it, they said they wanted more.
Wow.
And I had already started to write it. I started writing this one August of 2013. So I was in the middle of my tour when I started to put it together, but This one took a little longer, not gonna lie.
Right.
I was back to work. I was working full time, so
Wow.
I was sneaking in hours when I woke up before I went to bed, and any time I had off. So it was a labor of love, and I truly had a lot of fun putting the sequel together.
Yes.
I don't want to. You're running from the first page to the end, so it was fun. I
Yeah.
had a blast.
So when you're like, I just think I write nonfiction. It's almost like cheating because I just tell stories that have actually happened. But this is nonfiction, but you've drawn, I'm sure, on your personal experience and your career a lot.
Yeah, these are both fiction. So it's a weird process. Like it's almost. I don't want to say it's meditating, but I almost hit a meditative state where I'm daydreaming and I'm just describing a movie playing in my head. And I have some direction, like I can change scenes, but for the most part, I just let the movie play. And I want to keep it as realistic as possible, but also with some ideas that I have for the characters that I want them to go through.
Right. I just think that's so extraordinary because well, first of all, the fact that, well, you were an English, you were an English major at first, and then you became a police officer. You've made some really, some really big jumps, but I think it's so important to know that you can be an English major who becomes a police officer. Like, how did you make that transition?
So, like I said, I grew up fairly, I guess, poor.
Yep.
And I was exposed to a lot of things that helped drive my passion for policing. And I almost got swallowed by that very culture. And a police officer who I barely knew at the time took a chance on me and said, "You can move into my house."
Wow.
It was a huge leap of faith for him because he didn't really know a lot about me.
How old were you at the time?
18.
Okay.
And it really helped straighten out my life, and it really set goals for me on what I wanted. He had everything that growing up I wish I had. The house, stability, the family, all that. And so then that sort of got me thinking about being a police officer. I ended up moving out of his house within a few months, not because of anything, just I wanted to be on my own. And then I went back to college for policing, for law and security. And then I was like, I'm not sure I'm made for policing.
Right.
So then I decided to go to university for English because I love writing. I love being creative. And so that's how the English major thing came up.
Right.
But by that time, I had already started my family.
Right.
So the idea of...
I need a job.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
The idea of increasing my student loan even higher when I had mouths to feed didn't seem right. So that's how I ended up getting into security, which led to me meeting other police officers who said, "Hey, I think you'd be a good cop."
Right. I just love it. It's like a full circle story, though, isn't it? I mean, the way you grew up, that just those couple months with that police officer kind of influenced you, and you weren't there long.
Yeah.
Then you went back to English, and then you went to policing, and now because this freak accident that happened, you went back to English, right? With becoming an author.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of what is so extraordinary is that you can recreate your life, right? Because I know many people who are police officers or whatever line of duty, for whatever reason, they could no longer do their career, and they think, now what?
Yeah.
And my first question is, what do you love to do?
Yeah.
And you loved to write, right?
Yeah.
And look what you created.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I mean, it is. It's extraordinary. So first of all, I don't want to forget this. So you have a website.
Yes.
And what is your website?
michaelwalton.ca.
michaelwalton.ca. and that's where people order the books from your website or from where?
Well, they can contact me and order them directly from me.
Yep.
Or they can go to Chapters or any retailer.
So your book's at Chapters.
It's available everywhere. Ebook, iTunes, you name
Wow. Well, that's incredible because, yeah, I think that even when it's fiction, but it's written from someone with your history, I think that just brings that much more to it, you know? And again, because you can, my husband's telling me I have to hurry up. So that's why he's saying he's not moving. Anyways, no, I love the fact, like I said, when you've had this career for so many years, but you went back to your love of English and writing.
Yes.
At that time, would you have ever seen this being your path, right?
Never.
It's extraordinary, yeah. So what would you advise anybody who wants to be an author or has to change their career not by their choice?
It takes one step at a time. And number one, you have to make the decision and then make progressive steps towards it because it doesn't happen immediately.
Right.
It happens slowly. And there are some days I sat there with my laptop and I watched that cursor blink for hours, not being able to write anything. So it's a process and you have to just follow through.
Follow through and find your passion, and you can find new purpose, and maybe you will write a couple of books and go on a book tour. And I just think that's just so extraordinary. And I thank you because what these stories do is give others hope, right? Who are in maybe the same position. Maybe they've had a catastrophic accident and thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to move forward in my life?
Yeah.
You can recreate your life, can't you?
Yes.
Yes.
It's hard, but...
Yes. Easier said than done, absolutely. But it is possible,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Find the
absolutely.
support, follow your passion, and one step at a time.
Yes.
Right? So, Michael, thank you so much. Thank you for our nice prizes. I love this. I love my mug. And the books, I encourage everybody to check it out. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. So this has been the show Real Life Talks, talking about learning how to just show up for yourself, just show up for others, and find your passion and your purpose. So if you would like to be empowered, if you would like to be resistant, my call to action, as always, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party.